Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I'm just laughing at Chris's last comment about the slowly developing into the Waltons. Everyone saying hello to each other. Maybe we should all start saying goodnight to each other as well and then switch the lights off at the end. We might do that, but hello, everybody. Hope you're all good. Hope you're all okay. Another interesting week. I was going to say cracking week, but certainly an interesting week with cryptocurrency. Now, we've got the cuddle this weekend, and despite knowing what I was going to talk about 8 weeks ago, I actually still haven't finished my slides and all of that. So I'm going to try and keep this one even shorter if I can. So skirting through some of the news, having a look at the macros, obviously looking at Bitcoin, where it can go, answering the questions, and then taking on a couple of the altcoins that we're in. That being said, if you do have any questions whilst we're running through, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And failing that, we're going to crack on. Okay, so here we are, Bitcoin. Now, it's pulled back a little bit, but it did hit 94K about an hour ago. So another new all-time high. And as the candle, this is the 3-day chart. I mean, let's blow it up. Let's put it on the 1 day. But, you know, with 4 hours to go, Bitcoin, this could be the highest close that Bitcoin's had. As I say, it did just tip over 94. I was going to say 49,000. 94,000. So continuing with this strong move upwards, despite concerns in the markets, the more traditional markets, with what's happening over in Ukraine and Russia, which we ain't going to get in tonight because I don't really know too much about it. And so we'll just leave that one there. But Bitcoin hasn't really seen the pullback that some of the markets saw earlier on. What I would say, though, is the altcoin market not been doing too well today, despite the strength that we're seeing in Bitcoin. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can kind of see still a decent amount of red. Now, an hour ago, these reds and these percentage losses were far greater. So altcoin's starting to make a little bit of a recovery, but not looking too good. Casper, just blow this one up a little bit larger. So, you know, 3-day time frame, we broke it down, we recovered. We've effectively, on the hype, the news around the Kraken listing, come back up to that trend line. Yes, we broke through it, but as you can see today, whether or not it's a buy the rumor, sell the news event, we have seen a fairly sharp pullback, taking us back below that trend line at the moment. So not in the worst position by any means for long-term holders, but not necessarily in the best position for short-term holders. Would have really liked to have seen us stick the landing above that lower trend line, try and get back into this pattern up here and building from there for new all-time highs. We'll have a look at alts in a bit more detail in a moment. Total 3. Now, Total 3 is looking fairly wild, actually. And this is what? 3-day time frame, 5 candles, 15 days worth of just solid climbing. It wasn't that long ago that we were 580 billion. That was sort of around election time. And since then, we've actually put on good maths here, $250 billion, $250 billion in altcoins alone over the last 2 weeks. And that is why this candle is just looking like a stonking green lightsaber. So yeah, I've removed the trend lines from here because I think we've so far moved far enough away from where that needs to go. In terms of trying to do any sort of initial TA on this, which obviously we'll look into later, I don't know whether to run the 3-day. I mean, we can run it down to there, not the best, because I'm trying to think for this wick here, or do we take it down to these bottoms? I think it's probably a little bit better. There's certainly some interaction on the 236. So maybe we get to the 272, which is 860 billion before we see a turnaround. But to be perfectly honest with you, you know, since bouncing off the 236, the 382, the 0.5, the 618, the 786, and the 1 have all just been gobbled up. And I think at the moment that's just kind of showing where the strength in the market currently sits. What is interesting, though, is despite all of that, again, the 3-day time frame, Bitcoin dominance is still laddering up, still climbing up. So we haven't seen that turnaround at the moment. And, you know, the total 3 chart may be showing a picture of the altcoin strength. Bitcoin strength seems to be far stronger at the moment. I think that's represented today, really, with the fact that everything else seems to be red, with the exception of Bitcoin. Fortunately, we'll then turn on to our beloved BitTensor. Oh, no, we won't. We will now turn on to our beloved BitTensor. And I've left this bottom trend line open for the moment. Couple of reasons why. On the 3-day time frame, obviously we had that nice rise out back of September, the fall down through October, and then the Trump rally has lifted us through, but it has failed. I'm going to say failed because it's a pretty decent wick leading up to sort of 630. We're coming back down. We're battling that 500 level at the moment. And without any other indicators on here, it kind of feels like, if nothing else, this is going to fall back down, maybe even retest the low 400s or where this base support line has been lying. So some of you will know from the chat that I did do a small side step a couple of days ago, getting out between sort of 490 and 506, I think was the final sort of level. So kind of where we are at the moment. I am sort of watching that to see whether or not this is really worth risk to reward, but at the time it felt like the right thing to do, and I haven't felt the urge quite yet to jump back in. I'll go through that in a bit more detail, but yeah, for me, it just almost feels like a bit of a dead cat bounce. This come back down, what's that, from almost 680 down to 400, getting back up here, but if you just take it from the bodies, it's almost a 50% bounce, and then this feels like it could fall back down, hopefully into a W formation and lead us into some strength in the new year. Right, let's move on to a little bit of news. Positive news, of course, and good old MicroStrategy and Sailor up to the same scheme that they've been running for years now, which is convincing the world that Bitcoin is the greatest asset it is, which I think most of us here will agree, but starting to buy some more of it with not spending a single bit of their own money. So they're going to try and raise another $1.75 billion worth just so they can put it into Bitcoin. If they were to buy that at its current value, I think it's around about 8,000 Bitcoin they'd be able to get hold of. So they're still looking, it doesn't matter to them, it's 93, 94,000. They're seeing long-term timeline. This thing's going a hell of a lot higher, and we want to try and eat as much of it as we possibly can. So positive, positive news, the fact that MicroStrategy have announced this next scheme. All the other schemes have, seemed like they were buying at the tops at the time, ultimately looked like goodbye 6 months later. It's actually when they announce they buy that we start to see a little bit of a local top. So positive news there. And if you take that on the news of where Tether's been going, I mean, what was the last? So since the last call, Tether's printed $5 billion worth of USDT. And, ultimately, that's going to wind its way into the market somehow if it hasn't already. But usually moves up like this indicate that there's going to be an upward move in the near future. So again, positive to see. And keeping with the positive news, good old BlackRock and the rest of the gang, to be fair, continuing to buy Bitcoin at an incredible rate. Now, back end of last week, yes, we did see some sales, and we even saw BlackRock not purchasing, and they are fairly sizable chunks. But the reality of it is, the week and a half beforehand, billions upon billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin was bought across the market. So not surprising that some profit was taken towards the back end of last week. But again, first opportunity this week, markets have opened and decided they want to continue to buy. We don't know how today's looking, but given where Bitcoin's price is going right now, I would not be surprised to see the vast majority, or at least a black number over on the right hand side of this column here. Fortunately, we'll have to wait till tomorrow unless you want to dive into the addresses and see where it goes. And this is the next real target, isn't it? 100K, and it's not that far away now. I mean, we're 6% away, 94,000. This could be reached tonight. This could be reached on the call for all I know. So that 100K, massive psychological level. 100K has been talked about and dreamt about since I've been in crypto, so 2017. It felt like an absolute pipe dream back then, but to think that we're actually on the cusp of it right now. And one of the things, that I've been seeing people talk about, obviously there was the Trump pump after the election, and people are talking about, well, is the Trump pump losing some steam, and are we starting to see some pullbacks? And I don't necessarily think that we are. I mean, the price of Bitcoin certainly isn't looking like it's slowing down, and I do think there are some targets to the downside we should have a look at. But ultimately, the news around Trump, certainly in my opinion, that's been coming out over the last 2 weeks, 7 days, still seems to be very positive. Now, I think a lot of people right now are very narrow-minded, short-sighted, should I say, in terms of what's happening with Bitcoin today, tomorrow, whatever. But actually, I'm just looking around the core team that's being built, that Trump is building around himself. And whilst he has by no means come out and said that he's building this team for crypto, to help crypto, to make America great again, or to make crypto great again in America, or anything like that. The vast majority of the people in key positions in Donald Trump's, I don't know what they call it, cabinet, government, whatever it's going to be, either have some significant interest in Bitcoin or see the benefits of Bitcoin. So he is mulling over a new chair for the CFTC, which is the commodity, and I can't remember what the F is right now at the moment. Commodity Futures, thank you. Mine has gone blank there. Trading Commission, who is crypto friendly. So again, another key position within financial institutions that could have a look towards that. We know Senator Linus is Republican, and she's been very vocal about cryptocurrency. She's the one that came up with the Bitcoin Act, that plan to buy 1 million Bitcoin, 200,000 a year for the next 5 years. She's also suggesting at the moment that America should convert their gold into a Bitcoin reserve rather than a gold reserve, because there's greater value to be found there. Not the only senator to be pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin, but I think, once a core team around the president, is there, I feel others will have the courage, the backing, and everything else to probably put some other things forward. We've got RFK, the new health minister, or whatever the American term is for that, openly admitting that he actually put the majority of his net worth in Bitcoin some time ago. As he said, he is fully committed. Of course, he's going to be focusing on the health side here, but it doesn't hurt to have the most senior people in Trump's government pro-Bitcoin. And then, as if things couldn't get any better for us, although it's not confirmed yet, there was conversations being had last week about Gary Gensler's future at the SEC. Now, we know he is not a fan of cryptocurrency. He's not very good at prosecuting cryptocurrencies as well, it may seem. But Trump made a commitment when he was speaking at the Bitcoin conference that he would fire Gary Gensler on day one. Gary was asked about that after Trump was elected or re-elected. And whilst he didn't say he would be stepping down, he did allude that he would likely leave the post or resign prior to being pushed out of there. So we know that there's going to be another position that needs to be filled. Now, we've already talked about the Commodities and Futures Trading Commissioner. Now we're going to be looking at the chair for the SEC. So two of the more powerful regulations within the United States, hopefully being filled with crypto-friendly individuals. And of course, we could get something out of left wing that may change that. But what that's telling me is 2025 is surely going to be a good year for cryptocurrency. Good year for Bitcoin, ultimately probably a good year for cryptocurrency. And again, I don't think that's anything that we weren't expecting. And I don't think I've come up with any groundbreaking kind of announcement there that's going to go, really? I didn't think we were going to have a good year at all in 2025. But the fact of the matter is, we can all talk about how much we want 2025 to be good. But, to actually have things like this that are stacking up to prove that actually we've got a very good chance of things going the way we want them to in 2025. And America reopening their eyes towards cryptocurrency is going to be a big step towards that. For us in the UK, I think it's going to be a big step towards that because of that special relationship we have with the United States. I think if we start to see, some real buy-ins from America, we're going to kind of forcibly go that way. And one of the things I was thinking about whilst I was looking at one of these news articles, and we covered it last week, but if this Bitcoin Act does get approved and the United States starts buying 200,000 Bitcoin every year for the next 5 years, what do you think other nations are going to do? Are they just going to go, you know what, we'll wait 5 years and then, maybe we'll make a decision? Nah, I think a lot of them are going to go, actually, hedge ourselves even if we don't believe in it. Maybe we're going to have to buy into a little bit there as well. So maybe that's going to help just drive countries from around that way. I think enough said on that, or I'll be yabbering on about this far longer than I want to. A couple of other news articles that just made me smile when I saw them. Goldman Sachs, the only reason I brought this up, for those of you that have been in the crypto space long enough, I mean, most of the big banks in America, or global banks really, absolutely dumped on Bitcoin, slating it, calling it Ponzi, everything else there. But it's funny how quickly they change, isn't it? Goldman Sachs now holds $710 million worth of Bitcoin ETFs. Okay, maybe they don't hold the underlying asset as such, but their exposure to Bitcoin ETFs increasing by 71% since the second quarter of this year. And if there's Goldman Sachs doing that, you know the others are. I mean, JP Morgan, God, we used to always get a batter in there, but they've totally changed their tune. And so, yes, again, nothing particularly earth-shattering within it, but I think just how much the institutional banks have hated Bitcoin for a good portion of the last 7 years and beyond. It's just amusing to see the amount of money that they are now putting into it late. If only they had actually had the courage to go a little bit early, the amount of money or they could be sitting on now. But hey, they're buying into it right now, helping that price move up through the 90,000s, and so be it. And this one's just related to it, but Goldman's actually considering, haven't yet, to spin off a new company that will solely deal with crypto trading, which is, again, another interesting side there. Before we move on to the charts, I think just the one big news event for this week is, for me, it's got to be Nvidia. Nvidia earnings call is tomorrow night. So 4:20 Eastern time, so 9:20 UK time. Nvidia, I mean, for many reasons why we should be interested in this. It's basically carrying the US stock markets on its shoulders. It has had a bit of a pullback recently. I've been doing a little bit of reading around this today. I think generally most people seem to think that it is going to be a positive earnings call and earnings reports. Is it Blackwell? Or yeah, it's Blackwell, the sort of new chip that they're going to be bringing out. There is some concerns about how much heat that generates, and they're going to have to look into solve that problems. I think that was kind of actually, to be honest, talked about 3 months ago at the last earnings call. So yeah, maybe more news is coming about how much they need to delve into it. But right now, we're very much in a Nvidia-driven sector. And what's good for Nvidia is ultimately good for cryptocurrencies, but also in our little sector for BitTensor, for me, Near and Render, the AI sector, that's certainly going to help. So all eyes necessarily on that one. It's not something I'm going to be tuning into, but I think you can probably sense that there might be some funny business with the market makers tomorrow, just leading up to this, and then positions being filled and taken advantage of afterwards. But if you're at your charts at 9:20 and wondering why price is moving so rapidly, just have a quick look at what Nvidia's earning call is. It massively exceeding expectations, markets going up. Under delivers at any level, markets go down. So yeah, I think we will move on to just some charting. As I say, try and get through this as quick as we can. I'll have a quick drink. So this is the standard chart you've all seen for so long. There's one slight difference. We put a time machine on. I've gone back to last week because this blue line, you know it if you've been here long enough. It used to be white, it was a bit confusing. It goes all the way back to January 2023. It doesn't move. It's been a line that's drawn. And okay, didn't really hit there, we're going in the circle, but as you can see, it just hits the whole way through. And since we lost this in July, price moving this way, it felt like such a large gap, we never really talked about it. But then the Trump pump happened and we started moving a little bit closer. And on last week's call, we were talking about where we think price can turn around. Ignore the yellow boxes, they've been moved for today. But one of the things that we talked about was the 1.618 level at 94,000 and this blue line. And when you actually take this off, I mean, it happened straight after the call. But look, I'll zoom in. Straight to it and rejected from it. Fine, it didn't go down that far, but it rejected all the way back down to the previous fib level. And now we're moving back up. And what is interesting is where price currently sits at the moment. Because now we are on the 1.618. 618s are the ones I'm always interested in, which just so happens to coincide with the blue line, which also, now we are going to refer to the yellow boxes, does so coincide with the top of the liquidity heat map chart boxes that I've superimposed on this chart here. So there's an interesting area of confluence here, which could well, it seems logical given we've already had one attempt at it today to take those out. But I think we probably do re-hit that level, maybe top out the top of this bar. And then it's anyone's guess, unfortunately, where it goes after that, because I'll be honest with you, the heat maps don't really have too much beyond this right now. I mean, things are building in and around 100,000, but there's nothing namely there. And there's actually quite a lot that are building a little bit further down. And we'll have a look when we go on to lower time frames as to where some of those targets can be. But for me, this seems like a fairly sensible level to just maybe, if we hit there and you're wondering where things are, you want to look at opening positions, just take a moment to just actually see what is price doing in and around that 94 and a half level, and are we actually getting some strength? What we want to see is we want to see a candle close and then reopen above the 618 level. Then we can start talking about where we can potentially be going after that. I mean, there's some other levels here at 110 and a few others. I think for me, we mentioned it earlier on, the psychological level of 100,000 just can't be underestimated. It's I don't think it's like 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, even 90,000. This one here, because it's one, 6 figures, first time we'll have seen 6 figures, but two, it's been that dream number that's been talked about for so long. I really do feel that actually could well be a psychological level. Now that's where it's going to absolutely blow through it without any pullback, and I'll be egg on my face, but I'll be happy with that. If that's the case, and I'm a bit embarrassed because it hit 110 without taking a breath at 100,000, so be it. We'll cherish those wins every day of the week. And there's too much more to say there. Someone asked a question later on, but just having a look at sort of where we can go and what we're doing. Again, one of the questions we're going to get onto today, what price could we potentially see a turnaround from? And if the last chart doesn't say didn't say enough, that right now we can see it at any level. There's reasons why it could be pulling back. Obviously, from what I judge as TA with fib levels and with that line, previous price action, and everything the likes. But having a look at some of the other factors that could be in play here. So what was I drawing earlier? This is it. So this move up, that we had from October to sort of like the previous all-time high in March is something that people have sort of talked about, pondered about whether or not there's any similarities. And look, it never repeats, but it rhymes, doesn't it? So that's why we look and explore some of these things. So we find where October was. I think we'll take it from this one here, the 9th of October, not the 1st, but move it up to the top. It's 172. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, that's right. Oh, no, sorry. I know what I need to do. Apologies there. It's not from there. It was from the ETF opening. That's what I was wanting to look at. It's a 91, 92% sort of move up there. Because the reason I've discounted this is we did have that little resting period. Well, we've had that. We've had a much longer resting period, I appreciate. But what about a move up here? Now, again, I could take it down from that wick, but I'm going to take it from this one. Excuse me on that. That's just where I see it. 92%. Let's just say we get to there. What's that? It's 100,000. Kind of a pretty important level. We know that. So, look, there's no guarantee it's another 92%. But people that are saying, well, wait a second, we've had such a sharp move in such a short period of time. Surely we're due a pullback. Well, if this shows you anything, these kind of moves happen. 90, 100% moves on the right momentum, the right narrative, are not unheard of. And as we're looking at this right now, we're actually only at a 75, only a 75% uplift from where we previously were. Just a measly $40,000. And obviously, it's being as greedy as we are, we want to see that closer to $50,000. So, yes, it's not going to repeat, but it may well rhyme. The movements like this, whilst they feel unusual, because you're expecting a pullback, it can keep going up for as long as it needs to. Spit your words out, Harry. The sharper we get up there, the more likely we are to have a sharp correction, unless we do what we did last time. And I know this one felt like a sharp correction, 72 down to 49. I mean, it sounds like nothing now. 23,000. We've doubled that distance in the last 2 weeks, but that felt pretty painful over that sort of 7-8 month period. So maybe we do see this, and there's a little bit more. Fine. This continues to go up and up and up and up with a little pullback. That's going to be a sharp correction, and that's kind of going to feel not like that, but like this correction. For those of you who remember what happened, that correction hurt more so than this one, I think, because This one didn't seem to have any reason behind it, except for Elon saying that Tesla wouldn't take Bitcoin anymore. But this one obviously had plenty of reasons behind it. So anyway, that's certainly one thing that we can have a look at. Do we dare take it? I don't know. I've not tried this. Let's have a look. Okay. All right. Maybe there's something here. So I've done wick to wick just because it's weekly. Drawn a fib from the previous all-time high to the market bottom, and then seen where we've got at. And obviously, we had a lot of interaction at the previous all-time high in around 70,000. We've had that pullback to the 786. We're moving up. And throughout this, generally, these lines have done okay. So I'm thinking, all right, well, these lines look like they could be players as well. So, I mean, if you're just going off fibs, 100,000, if it gets broken, maybe actually the 104 is a level that we could be looking at for turning that round. These without a pullback, should we get to them? In my opinion, the market would be so overheated that it would demand well, logic would suggest it would demand a huge pullback. If it's being driven by nations and institutions buying it, perhaps not. But that certainly that's not where I'm looking right now. Hell, we haven't even got into six figures yet. I'm certainly not looking at 174,000 anytime soon. And this is a logarithmic chart, so that looks a lot closer than it actually is. Put that bad boy in a linear. I mean, the lines have moved, but 74,000 is all the way up here. It's a long way to go. I'm just wondering, now that I've drawn that up, no idea if this is going to work. Let's leave that here. There might be some fibception in a minute. So if we did, let's just see, does this work? Let's have a look. Previous all-time high to bottom. It topped at, oh, you can't really see that. Topped at the 618, so it had that strong move up. So hit the 618, 0.618. We're going to have to use that because I'm going to use that. Held some support, strong move up. I mean, it's not really the same, is it? So we had too much. I mean, there's clear fib levels we bounced in and around within here, but this one went straight through them. But the 272 and the 414 and the 618 were all key levels, you know. Bouncing in and around those two, absolutely key. And then where the top is. So, you know, that 128 to 174, maybe 174 is the figure that we should be looking at. I know a lot of people have talked potentially a lot higher than that. I think, you know, let's get into six figures before we start seeing how many multiple six figures we can get to. Let's see. I don't know if it's going to work because we're going really back into it. So let's go back to 2013, 14, top to bottom. No. I think we can just ignore everything I said there, unfortunately. I mean, the 618 is at this, but it's not the end. You know, it goes much higher. It does have some interaction in and around that 272 and the 414 again. So maybe I'm clutching there. But maybe they are levels, you know, to be looking at anyway. Maybe there's some validity in where those are going. 130, 175. Okay. Well, don't think we'll save this chart, but if someone wants to remember if we hit those numbers, then feel free to pat me on the back. And if it didn't work out, then let's just ignore it like we always do. Okay, I'm going to go into some lower time frames of Bitcoin in a moment, but I kind of feel like I've touched on the question here, so I might as well dive into the question. And I'm going to answer Paul's first, since that's what we've just been talking about, and then we'll go on to Nick's. So what are the key market indicators or patterns we should be looking out for to determine whether the market is going to keep pumping or have a sharp pullback? I think I probably posted one of the vaguest but, you know, greatest indicators out there in chat earlier on today, and that's this fear and greed indicator. It's so hard to play off the fear and greed indicator because it doesn't have a timeline. We don't know if 90 indicates that it's a top and it's going to fall back down, but what we do know is that when the market is extremely greedy, we're getting to a top. And for the last week, we've been in extreme greed, probably longer. 90, so we got to 90 in March of this year, never went higher. The last time we've seen 90 was at the peak in 2021. So we're at the heights of greed that we saw at the height of the last bull run. And I don't know if the market actually feels particularly greedy. I'm not sure yet. I have seen more people talk to me who wouldn't normally talk to me about crypto. I've seen, on Instagram, on Twitter, just random people coming out of the woodworks telling everyone that they're crypto experts. That hey, they may well be. I don't pretend to know every single person on Twitter that claims to be a crypto expert, but it seems to be a lot more sort of prevalent. There seems to be a lot more tweets and stories and reels about not them, but someone they know making massive amount of bank in very little time. The kind of clickbaity kind of things that they're trying to draw people into so they can join their Telegram groups or whatever. So this is very typical for what kind of happens when we get to these levels. We saw it. We talked about it in March when we were at 72,000. 90 is a very dangerous level to be at. And I think that's probably going to be the case. Now, this is, just put it over the year time frame. So 5th of March, it was at 90. This isn't really the best chart to look at. It gives some sort of indication. But if you go on to, it used to be LIB. Was it Look Into Bitcoin? But they've changed it to Bitcoin Magazine Pro. So if you go on there, there is a fear and greed index chart, which you can kind of see here. Let me just, so that's what it normally looks like. What you've got is, for those who haven't seen a chart like this before, is you've got Bitcoin's price. However, overlaid on that are circles that represent fear and greed. And the keys down the bottom, the darker orange you are, the more fearful. And then the brighter green is the greedier you are. And so we can get an idea of where price is versus the fear or greed side of things. So if I now zoom in to this year. So if we go to March, what is interesting is when we find it. So look, I can't maybe hit it first time, but the score of 90, remember the highest greed we saw was actually at 63,000. And whilst the fear and greed index was dropping, price still continued to climb. So we went from 63 to 73 effectively, a further 10,000 before we really started to fall. And can you see we were at 90, 75, 82, 84, and then we peak at 81 and it falls away. So it's not a clear-cut indicator, but it's certainly something to consider. So, we're at 90 at the moment. Doesn't mean that it's going to roll over. We might start to see the fear and greed score drop, but price could still continue and make its way towards that 100K. But what we do know is when we get to these levels, we see a reset. And at some stage we will. What we're hoping for is that this reset is not the reset. It's not the end. It's just a reset to take us to the next leg going up. And bear in mind, in the last 3 weeks, we've gone up $40,000. We've nearly 100%, nearly doubled where we are. We need a breather. We do. I mean, altcoins haven't gone up as well. I get it. But given Bitcoin's still king, ultimately we need that to have a breather. And what we then want to see is another move up from Bitcoin. And then we get to see that money move away from Bitcoin and into other crypto assets. So that's something I would look at, Paul, absolutely. The other one, which, again, a lot of people run towards it, and it's a good basic indicator to have a look at, is the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, which, for those who aren't aware, effectively just shows you areas of an asset being overbought or oversold. So if it's overbought, it's highly likely to have a correction to the downside. If it's oversold, we're in fear territories, blood on the street, and it's an ideal time to buy. Now, so where are we? This is the weekly. And actually, and I mentioned this last week, we're only at 74. So yes, technically we are in overbought territory, but you can kind of see that we can spend 6, 7, 8 weeks up here and get much higher on the index before we have that correction. So we're getting close to a correction, especially on something in a higher time frame like the weekly, but it doesn't mean that can happen. And 6, 7 weeks away from now can stay here for a long time. So it's something just to bear in mind. I would never utilize the RSI solely on its own. But if you start to see that, okay, we've been in here for a while, we're starting to then move back down towards below 70 level, maybe it's time to start considering. But as I said, you look at the previous bull run in 2021 or 2020 to 2021, when Bitcoin went from 20,000 to 60,000, it stayed up here for 12 weeks. Similarly, okay, we had the dip, which just took it below. But if we don't count that, we went from October to April. So again, what's that, sort of 6 months? So it can stay within this area, but it's a good indicator. Now, if we actually take this one down a little bit further, what we can start to see, and again, these don't give you time frames, but we do have bearish divergence starting to form. I'm on the daily, so it's looking relatively small. We can go down to the lowers. So what we've got with bearish divergence, so we've got the RSI score is going down. So it was at 84, it went down, came back to 83, went down again, it's come back to 77, whilst price is climbing. And again, fairly standard bit of TA. It doesn't give you an indicator of when it's going to break, but more often than not, bearish divergences play out and we'll see a correction. Again, it won't tell us how far that correction is going to be, but what we will see at some stage, or should see if it plays out, is the price sort of correcting down and starting to line up with the dropping of the RSI. Again, you go down through the lower time frames, that's still there. It's still there on the 4. Obviously, everything needs redrawing to get it there, but you can kind of still get the same picture that we're trending down that direction. So there are things to take in. For me, I'm just cautiously optimistic. So fear and greed, yes, it's okay. Not going to give us a time frame. RSI, okay, kind of tells us that we may be there, but it's not giving us a clear cut. Where the market's going, not really there. I'm more of a just play the volatility type of person, and we'll see where it leads from there. So Chris has put, is the fear and greed index based solely on Bitcoin or crypto in general? So how it's run, it actually tells you down here how it works. Data sources. So this one here is for Bitcoin. So it's current volatility of Bitcoin's price action relative to the last 30 and 90 days. Momentum and volume, social media sentiment, the dominance of Bitcoin, and Google Trends for Bitcoin. Why have I sort of hesitated to say that? Because you get fear and greed on things like CoinMarketCap. Now, as I understand this here, this is done for the whole of the market. So one, it's a little bit different because it takes into account the whole of the crypto market. Two, the one I was showing you before only updates once a day. I think this one updates periodically throughout the day. So hopefully that one kind of clears it there. And then Pranette said, it's not the case that I can save a bot for a long time. Yeah, I think that's still true. Quickly on Memes AI, I'll definitely have a look at that. I know some people have jumped onto that one. So yeah, I will have a look at that when we go back through. Just quickly on Nick's one here. When starting to cash into crypto as the bull market matures, are you concerned about leaving a good sized pot in Tether? Is it safe? Still not confirmed the treasury is large enough to back all the digital Tether. Thoughts, please. I don't want to bring back into fear. Jokes, we don't know. And do you get a warm and fuzzy feeling staking USDT? I would only stake. I don't even know where you can stake USDT. Maybe you can do it on some exchanges. I would be looking, if you were going to do that, for low yielding ones. We all got caught. Well, we all know of someone that got caught out with UST and Luna and the Terra network and all of that kind of stuff with their magical 20%. So just bear that one in mind. In terms of just cashing out, and I'll just quickly touch on this because hopefully we've got plenty of time, months to go through. Yes, I will be leaving some. A few months ago at Cuddle, I did my exit plan strategy, which I need to update, to be fair. Just a spreadsheet. And for those of you that have a sharp memory, I was determined to leave a portion of whatever I make in two sides. One in Tether. Well, actually, it'll be 2 pots of Tether, because ultimately I want to convert some of it just into Bitcoin. I can just move into the pension Bitcoin pot. But I will just take back to my bank what I want to take as profit. So what, if there's things that I want to buy or move into other assets or whatever, that's what I want to take. Everything else I'm going to leave for exactly what you say, choke point 2.0. We just don't know where it's going, nor, tinfoil hat, where fiat currency and digital money, CBDCs, all of that kind of stuff may go down. Now, in terms of is Tether safe, look, Tether gets as much FUD as Bitcoin did back in the day. Ultimately, I think they are being audited more. I think they're being audited by reputable companies, and I think they're actually even proving that they are shrewd business people, men, women. And so I don't know if it's 100% verified, but it'll be there. Look, if Tether explodes, we've got some problems with the industry. Trust me, it's $128 billion out of an altcoin market, which remember is 830 at the moment. So, it's 1/7 of it, probably 1/6 of it, wiped away immediately. So that's where I'd be going with that one. All right, let's have a look at, nope, not that. Let's have a look at Bitcoin on some lower time frames. And I'm seeing it's actually starting to pull back again now. So what are we on the 1 hour? Let's at least go to the 4 hour, kind of see where we are. Now, this whole move over the last week has just, it's just been we've had, what was it? I'm trying to work out what day this was. Wednesday. So Wednesday, we had the move up for the new all-time high. Then we have nice, strong green vector candle, which talked about vector candles last week. Immediately recovered with its own vector candle here and then down. Recovered. And it's just formed like over the last 7 days, a weekly range, high and low, which Bitcoin has just traded in, albeit 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago, it finally broke through the range, but it hasn't broken through with that much conviction right now. So we've just been trading within that range, and holding up through that range has been effectively the 20 EMA. The 10, the blue line, the sort of light blue line, has done it, but it's been really the red line, the 20 EMA, that's been sort of catching us and keeping us going there. And even, this period we had at the close yesterday, it was just red vector candle down, green recovery, red vector down. This was green until about the last minute before it closed and it turned to red, but it didn't make too much of a difference. I think this is just market makers having some volatility. So what do I see? As I say, I think there is room for us to move back down. Yes, we have tipped the all-time high, but to be frank, it wasn't a particularly strong move through. It is a blue vector candle, so it is increased volume. I would like that to have seen to be green. It's been recovered right now, so I do see, if not a move all the way down to the daily open, which is sub 91,000, certainly down to sort of that 91,000 level where the 20 EMA is. Perhaps it does wick down to the daily open, as we mentioned. Of course, it might not be the daily open if it doesn't get down there in the next 3 hours. But I just see it's continuing to work within this range. What we don't, let's have a look at what else there is on the 4 hour here, because we haven't hit the 50 EMA since the Trump pump. Okay, so that's a fair few candles away. What the 50 EMA is currently sitting in at the moment is the last bit of vector candle to be recovered on this run. So maybe there could actually be a move back down there. But I'm thinking from a bigger reset point of view move, be these vector candles here that I've got my eye on. And last week we talked even maybe getting down to sort of that 76 in this vector here. Obviously that's a possibility. You'd need to get through these. But this will feel painful getting down here. But actually, that's, for Bitcoin to be able to take that out, build off and move back up, then have its run up to 100K or whatever, great move. Maybe it goes and takes 100K first and then comes back down. But this is fairly recent trap liquidity here. It feels almost like an easy target for market makers to go after. And we know that generally vector candles are recovered. Oops, that's not going to work. Once we move far away, then obviously they stay down there for a while. But that's sort of, for me, the target, the area where I'd be looking at. That's not what I want to do. Let's just get rid of the drawings this way. Anything different on the hour? I'm just wondering if there was some sort of like M formation that was potentially forming. Maybe it is better on the... I haven't counted the waves up, but we've got W1. I don't know if that's one. It probably is. you could count that as one. Okay, so we could count that as one. Wave 2, and then this big wave up, maybe some M formation. So that could be one. That could be where we sort of see ourselves. Or, because I had that hesitation, actually, that's one. And this is just 2. And this is the part of the consolidation before we have that move up. Which, again, could well be where that goes. I was just because... Again, why don't I just do this? I was just wondering, is that a peak and that a peak? But I'm not too convinced, just because it sort of like meandered there. It wasn't like a sharp M, was it? It was more like a... Oh, well, that's a poor one. Poor attempt. It's more like that, which obviously can still be, but yeah, that's why I'm just thinking of that. So I don't really see any major concerns. It's going to hurt for altcoins if Bitcoin goes down to there. That's the concern, isn't it? If we were all in on Bitcoin and it pulled back to 82,000, I don't think we'd be too worried about it. But because of what that's likely to do to altcoins if it move down, it's not what we want to see happen. Speaking of which, let's have a look at Tau. So Tau on the 4 hour, and as I said, I made a small 30% sidestep of my Tau. What were we doing at the time that the decision was made? I think we were here. So some people and I were talking about head and shoulders, and I was worried that this now rejecting off that 50 in there was going to form as a shoulder. And I've taken the replay a little bit further back because, as I say, I got out sort of much closer down in this zone here. But you can kind of, that was a formation of what I was thinking. And I remember chatting it over to someone on Discord before I did it. I was about to go to bed and I was just like, I'm going to take the risk to go a little bit early. Highly likely that it is going to pull back to the 50 EMA, but I don't want it to drop whilst I'm asleep and miss out. And when we get rid of this, we had that move down, but then it did come back to the 50 EMA. So I could have had a much better exit at 5:20, 8 o'clock in the morning, or sometime leading up to 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not really looking at my charts, I'll be honest, at that time. It fell away again, but I thought actually this was going to be the move down. Didn't do anything. Pretty nervous when this one shot up, I'll be honest. But I always had in my head the cloud, and it just didn't do anything with it. So it's come back down. And again, now, you look where it's sitting below on the 4 hour. The 10's above it, the 20, the 50, the 200. And it's in a downtrend. Just feels like this, unfortunately, is going to be making its move down. And I'm not being greedy. I've already set my buy down at this... I can't speak. Vector cloud or vector recovery zone, sort of down here. I think it's at 434. I think something like that. I've set it for. Again, just in case it happens whilst I'm not around. I'm just trying to get an extra few tokens for any move. If it goes further, so be it. I'm just trying to see on the daily if there's anything else that kind of gives me an indication. That was it. It's a 200 EMA. I thought, well, by the time we get there, it might have creeped up to sort of like, well, at the time, 425, so I'll go a little bit higher. And that's what I was thinking. And again, it came down and bounced off of that one quite nicely. Maybe that's what that one ends up doing. Excuse me, on the lower time frames, the Tau, again, doesn't really paint the best of pictures right now, because it's lower lows and lower highs. Yep, so we know which way the trend is ultimately going. But the EMAs are just kicking our butts the whole time. Particularly, from the weekend, I suppose. Yeah, we had a little bit of a double top there. We've come down, and then, we've made those moves up to 50, but we've been knocked back down each time. And sometimes we break through it, but guess what holds us? The 200 and the 800, and they're so close to each other at the moment that they can. You can allow yourself a little bit of time. I mean, it's only $10 between those two. So I'm sort of like sat on my hands. In my head, I'm thinking sort of 520, I'm going to have to get back in, and I'll just take a little bit of a knuckle wrap. I did sell some meme coins a couple of days ago, which I just wasn't interested in anymore. not for huge profits, but something. So I suppose I can offset any damage that I have if it does get above 520 and I have to get back in that way. But, you know, this is trading sometimes and you can't win them all. But right now, I don't want to get back in because I just still feel that there's some sort of weakness. I want to see them break the trend. And for me, you know, even on the hourly, that's closing the candle above the 200 and the 800, bearing in mind we're battling in the moment the 10. So there's plenty of work for it to do to get through there. Some of the other ones that I hold, you know, so near, you know, actually, I'm not going to do TA on them, but just this is the problem, isn't it? Like, look at Bitcoin on the 4 hour. Nice, strong move up. Near, oh, no, we need to reset near. Scale's all wrong. Nice, strong move up. Yep, okay, it's pullbacks, but it's had a strong move up. It was 360 for the Trump pump. You know, it's almost 100x. It did at one stage, 100x, 100% increase. Apologies. Since then, you look at Render, again, another one that I'm in. Strong move up. Kaz, strong move up, regardless of whether or not it was a buy the news, buy the rumor, sell the news event. Yep, today is looking like that might be the case, but strong move up. ETH, unfortunately, not so much. A strong move up than stagnation, and that's kind of similar to Tau. I think ETH actually had a better move up. Yeah, it's had that strong move up. This isn't even stagnating now. This one is falling. It's losing a bit of steam, and so that is reflective in the Tau Kaz chart, obviously in the USDT price of Tau. And if you are someone that trades Tau BTC, it's getting a kick in as well at the moment. So it's not performing the best right now. Chris has asked, which meme coin did I sell? I sold used car, which is a Honda Civic based meme one. I literally bought into it because a friend did and I wanted to support them. He sold it, and so I decided to sell. That's it. That's the logic behind it. Sometimes that's all the logic you need for memes. But all the other memes you see in this section here, I still hold. They have been taking a kick in. They really have. So yeah, so I just in overall structure in terms of where the markets have gone, a lot of cryptos, particularly in the AI sector, have mirrored what Bitcoin have done. But for some reason, Tau has not followed suit. I put that little tweet out yesterday from Storm in a Teacup or whatever his name is, where he listed all the concerns. And I think Simon commented that there are all genuine concerns that are looking to be resolved. And I think for me, it was just a real slap to the face of, I need to actually research, be more on top of my research with BitTensor. It's such a beast, especially with all the individual subnets, to try and understand where things are going there. But it's still my biggest holding. It's not something that I am shying away from. That's just how the candles are lining up at the moment, and it sometimes does that. I mean, even Dot's managed to make some sort of resurgence, and again, at one stage 2x from the Trump pump. So there we go. Sorry, a bit of a sniff down there. Let's have a look at Memes AI. Is it on? I doubt it. I'm going to have to go on the deck screen. Oh no, here we are. But it doesn't have much info. I will go on once I prove how yeah, it's not much. Okay, let me go on to deck screener. I can find where I put it. Oops. Memes AI. I'm just going to mute my microphone because I need to sniff. Excuse me. There we go. No one wanted to hear that. That's for sure. Okay, this is on the daily. Let's just put it on the 4 hour so that we can have a little bit more. I mean, so I'm smiling because I know what's coming at the cuddle. But what do I see here? So it's a short time frame. I completely understand. And it looks kind of scary. But actually, if you buy into these sort of meme cycle hypes, this is actually what you want to see. I know it sounds unusual to say that, but that's what you want to see. So, you have that strong move up, which it's had. You then have, you can even take it to this one down here. But then you have that sell-off, a bottoming pattern, and then a recovery that in the next attempt takes out the previous all-time high. And it moves up, down again, Next attempt takes out the previous all-time high, moves up, down again. And it's just showing that, it has a community behind it. It has an active community behind it. It has people that are willing to continue to buy this token, even when we see the price drop. So they're seeing value from the long term. And that's what we're seeing right now. So, this move here was, almost a 10x. From this bottom all the way up to here. It probably was greater than a 10x because I've not got it all fully on the chart. So not surprising that we're going to see some pullback. And I don't know when people have got in on memes AI. I'm not in this one. But right now it has had that pullback. Would I be, if I was in it, would I be selling right now? Absolutely not. And it's not because, there's a fib level that I'm concerned about or anything like that, although I am going to throw a fib on. I mean, look, even the fib level, okay? So I was going to talk about previous price action. This here is previous price action. It's hit, it's bouncing off. Wait for it to break this. But actually, it's also lining up with a 382. So for me, there's no reason for this to sell. Yes, it's gone up, but it's pulled back to a known area of previous price action, which happens to tie in with a fib level. And okay, memes have characteristics of their own. I completely get that. But that's how I'd be looking at it. What I'd want to see from here, retest, and away, and break through this one and away. And as I said, if it follows suit, what he wanted, I mean, maybe it sweeps it and then it goes, but that next run up, you want to see it take out that high. What you don't want to see is it go, no, and reject just before it. So we want to see it take it out. And then the trend continues. And if Murad was here, he'd say, believe in something and just hold on to it. Believe in it, and you'll be amazed where it goes to. Now, this one, it has got a life on its own because it's not that old. And for meme coin, get listed on things like Mexi and that straight away, relatively straight away, is quite impressive. So it's certainly got a lot of hype in and around behind it. Here's one to discuss. It's 9 o'clock. I think I'm going to try and call it unless there's a question that comes through, just because I've obviously got my slides to do, and we've got the cuddle this weekend. Hopefully, those of you that are here are coming to the cuddle. I'm going to be there. It's a Christmas party as well, so we're going to have some great time. Before that, we'll just have a look at the pots and the portfolios. So my tau amount has actually dropped, and that's mainly because Near and Render have picked up against it. I actually haven't updated this to take into account the sale of the tau. It's roughly at the price that I sold it at, so it's not really made too much difference. But Render and Near obviously increased over the last week quite strongly, so they've just been eating into the share, and the memes haven't really dropped too much. It's just they have dropped in price, but it's just that Render and Near have just gobbled it up. Bitcoin remains where it sits, and I bought some more a few days ago. So yeah, that's just, I'm like MicroStrategy on a 1 billionth, no, let's not even kid ourselves, 1 trillionth scale. I'll just keep on buying it. So yeah, so that's where I am with that. Yeah, that's to say, I think that's going to call it there. Cuddle this Saturday. I'm going to be talking mainly about a big mistake I've made. So I'll go through that in some detail. I know Simon will obviously be doing quite a few, probably some other guest speakers as well. But more importantly, it's a little early, but it's going to be our Christmas party. So just an opportunity for us all to meet IRL. And I would say all get drunk, but I know some of you don't drink. But certainly act a fool, be competitive in some random games. And yeah, generally just have a good time. So hopefully I will see some of you there. Please feel free to come and say hello and, tell me what you think, as long as you don't call me an idiot or whatever else. Then yeah, Tim's leaving us because he wants to go and have a look at Starship. Fair enough. But yeah, I'll see you the weekend. Oh, Alan's asked if we can have a look at Kaz. I did have a quick look at Kaz, but I did say I'd look at it in a bit more detail. Last thing I'll do then. You caught me at a good time. So Kaz on the 4 hour. We've had that move up, which I think the announcement on Thursday was the Kaz listing. So we've had that strong move up on the announcement, which was immediately sold away. Again, vector candle recovery back down to the 50 EMA. But then over the weekend and the hype building around buy the rumor, sell the news for Casper, and ultimately we've seen that. And then it went live at 9 o'clock this morning. And look at that. That's the same candle. The 12 o'clock candle on the 4 hour we start to see that sell. I would not be surprised if it went down to 15 cents, retake this 50 EMA. What I want to see though is strength from that, as it has done previously, and bounce away from it. The 800 is there to potentially help catch it and move that one up. Just on, I don't know if you were late here, and so I'm just trying to show you what I was on here. Look at this. These are just a 3-day time frame with the chart. You can kind of see what I was talking about. It obviously broke that pattern which it had been in for the best part of 9 months. It's come back up, rejected off what was previous support and now resistance. It's come back up, re-attacked it and entered it due to by the rumor news, but it hasn't been able to hold it. And really need to get back above 17, stick the landing and start building in here. If it doesn't do that, it might be in a little bit of trouble. So that's it. That's my views on that one. It's a bit quick, but hopefully it catches everyone up. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. You got any questions between now and Saturday, feel free to tag me in Discord. Everything I know, there's going to be a trading pub on Thursday afternoon. So if nothing else, I'll see you there and enjoy the rest of your evening. Cheers now.